if you're looking from the macroeconomics point of view, America has recovered better than everyone else. That's why Democrats will say that Biden's done a great job. So if you look at GDP figures, it's way ahead than everyone else in the world, surprisingly high. At the end of the day, if you look at what's happened in the last 2.5 years, there has been just rhetoric from both sides. America clearly has not been helping, or the West, and especially America, they've been taking the lead. They haven't been helping the situation towards peace. Even when Russia put on the table peace opportunities, they were not taking it. Clearly, it's in the interest of the US for this war to continue. The vast majority of tax in this country, close to 90%, is paid by the large corporations. If you look at what the actual populace is paying, it's minute compared to what the bigger corporations are paying. It's massive money they're paying. The problem is they don't understand how it affects men. And me being a former police officer, I can tell you firsthand. When I'm on the beat and on night shift on Friday and Saturday night, I don't want women police officers next to me.
Would the war have happened if Trump was in office?
No.
Welcome to the Out of Interest podcast. Today's episode is another one of the what should we call them, Muzza? Just a chat amongst off the cuff sort of chat.
Pretty much,
with
yeah.
the big man himself, with the big man Hakan. Also, as you guys know by now, also my dad, business partner of Muzza, jack of all trades, master of none. Right, Hakan Ozion. Today's episode, we're gonna try to make it not as controversial, hopefully. Right, we're gonna talk about the US election. Some of you might ask, why are you guys talking about the US election? Reason number one is obviously being in the finance game. US election has a massive impact on the global economy. A lot more than what people think. And the number two, again, it has a lot of impact on the Muslim world as well, depending on who wins. And we'll unpack all this as we go. But gents, I'm going to start off with one statement and then we could go off from there. All right, the statement might be a little controversial, but it's what I think. In the last 4 years of Biden, it's 4 years, right? Or 3? 4. The last 4 years with Biden in office, personally, I think it's probably been one of the worst 4 years in a very, very long time, with the amount of wars that's happening, the amount of deaths that's been happening, the amount of economic impact the world has received in terms of cost of living crisis, inflation, just general hatred amongst the world, the East and the West hating each other even more and more, the world being divided more and more. Boss man, would you share that testament or no? Because you look at the economy every second.
Yeah, well, clearly it's a big part of my work. It depends who you're asking, because if you ask Democratic supporters, they're going to clearly think it's the opposite. They're going to think that it's actually Donald Trump that's stirring all the hatred and all the controversy and destroying the economy, and they're going to actually totally disagree with that statement of yours, okay?
But proof's in the pudding, no?
No, but they'll give him credit for the whole, post-COVID as well. So you look at the last 4 years, that's all the post-COVID era, the cleanup, the aftermath of COVID and everything else. And a lot of people would say, look, you know what? All things being equal, not a bad job.
Look, people are biased in everything. So clearly Democratic supporters are going to be biased and say, you know what, that is a complete false statement. It's actually the complete opposite. And Trump is the one that does all that stuff. Okay, and the Republicans will say, yes, that is a correct statement. So when you're talking about politics, it depends who you ask. Okay, so that's what you're saying. Would I agree with that statement? Yeah, I agree with that statement. Because I don't really care about American politics in a way. I sort of do.
Yeah, so again, we don't really
As
care.
a neutral stand view that I've got, I think what your statement's correct. But again, Democrats will disagree with what you say.
But on what basis? I know politics, there's no truth in politics, right? Let's just get that out of the way. It's just people assuming things, throwing things at each other. That's literally what politics is, right? But on what basis can they say that? Because you look at what's happening around the world, right? And it's not looking pretty right now. And I feel like whoever's next in line has a lot more work cut out for them than during the COVID, right? Because you look at a lot of countries around the world, they've recovered well after COVID, right? A lot of companies out there, their GDPs have gone up. Like, you could recover. Like America, the size they're at, the money they make, the influence they have around the world, you would expect them to recover very, very quickly. Right? There are companies out there that are poorer than America that have recovered quicker.
Well, see, if you're looking from the macroeconomics point of view, America has recovered better than everyone else.
Exactly.
See, that's what I
Right?
mean. That's why the Democrats will
Yeah.
say that Biden's done a great job. So if you look at GDP figures, it's way ahead than everyone else in the world. It's, I mean, surprisingly high. And they recovered really well. I mean, unemployment's pretty well. I mean, if you look at all the macroeconomics metrics, Democrats going to point at that and say, you know what, Biden's done a great job considering it was, at the pandemic stage. So economics-wise, the Democrats are going to point to why they're strong. Again, if you look at the social aspects, wars around the world, if you look at the policies like policy outside America, it's pretty bad with what's going on around the world. The hatred, and there's a clear decoupling going on with East and West. Okay,
It's very obvious now.
it's an obvious decoupling. Prior to Trump did start it somewhat in 2018 when he started tariffs on China, but the Democratic administration have clearly ramped it up big time, and it's really now decoupling big time. So of course with the Russian war and the Middle Eastern conflicts that are going on, so there's clear issues around the world. So foreign policy is definitely not the Democratic strength.
On the topic of foreign policy, right? I was reading this thing over the weekend where you look at these NATO countries that are there and the US allied forces and everything else, and the amount of military spend that the US does in its commitment to the NATO alliance and everything else, and Trump's view, and it makes a lot of sense. He's like, because everyone just leans on the US to come in and provide support and whatnot, everybody else is reducing their military spend because they're like, oh, well, Big Brother will help us out. And he's like, at the end of the day, we're killing our own economy. We're putting our own troops on the line. We're doing all this type of stuff for this supposed helping the rest of the world and allied forces. Why should we do all that kind of stuff? And a lot of people are getting behind that as well to say, well, it's high time the US started taking care of itself rather than this whole, taking care of the whole world. What's your take on that?
That is correct until the Russian war.
Yeah.
So when Trump was in office, I would say that was a correct statement because a lot of Europe was actually just sleeping. They were just, it was peace and there hasn't been a proper war for a long time. I think it's all changed now that the Russian war, 2.5 years, you'll see that pretty much every single European country now has ramped up their military spend. They're all clearly frightened of what could possibly happen in the future. So if Trump's talking about it now, it's incorrect. Previously, yes, he 100% was right. So yeah, I agree with what he said before.
But then he's come out now saying that, well, the moment I'm elected, within 24 hours, I'll de-escalate the whole thing in Russia. Is that fictitious or is that?
Let's stick
Because
on
he has
this
a weird
war
relationship
stuff. Let's
with-
stick on this war stuff for a bit because it's rampant, right? I was gonna bring that up too, right? He's been for months saying how if he was still in office, none of this would have happened, and if he gets re-elected, he'll finish it. I read that too within 24 hours, right? First, let's talk about, before we get into that, how he'll stop it in 24 hours. Would the war have happened if Trump was in office?
No,
I don't think so.
it wouldn't have.
Why?
Because Trump would have found a way of diffusing this, or just making everyone come to a mutual agreement in that. Once Russia got to the stage where they were just, on the brink, he would have made sure it wasn't escalated.
De-escalated, yeah.
Yeah. He would have made sure. Look, at the end of the day, if you look at what's happened in the last 2.5 years, there has been just rhetoric from both sides. America clearly has not been helping, or the West, and especially America, they've been taking the lead. They haven't been helping the situation towards peace. Even when Russia, put on the table peace opportunities, they were not taking it. So clearly it's in the interest of the US for this war to continue. I think you'll be foolish not to see that, okay? For this administration, that is. And Trump, I think he's correct in saying that if he came, I think this war would come to a pretty quick...
How would he, what would he put
He'll
on
come
the
to a
table?
resolution and come to a peace a deal of some sort. Basically, you've got to remember, Ukraine can only continue this war because of US support. If the US
Supply,
pulls the
yeah.
support and says, you know what, unless you come to a peace agreement, I'm going to pull the support, they'll have to come to a peace agreement. Russia's always there for peace. Russia's always said that, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying what Russia's doing is right, but what I'm saying is, Russia said that we don't want to take the whole of Ukraine. We've taken, I think, 4 provinces, Donbass and a few other places. We're happy with this. Let's just leave the war this down. and that these are our lands now, and pretty much let's come to a peaceful resolution. But the US is fueling the war by continuing to supply Ukraine and saying, you know what, you've got to get your lands back, and it's taking a high casualty on the Ukrainian civilians and their military. So, look, with Trump, he's a bit more realistic. He knows they're not going to be able to take those lands back, and he won't sacrifice all those young people in the Ukrainian military because right now they're just dying for no reason.
Because Trump said it Putin said it from the start, like, don't make bases in Ukraine. Like, don't let Ukraine join NATO. Like, he doesn't want that. He doesn't want America at their doorstep, right? Which is a form of, let's create the peace. Don't come to my doorstep. I don't want any problems, right? And I know a lot of people hate Putin, but the man said it from the start. He's like, don't come to my doorstep, right? And you guys didn't listen. So here you go, I'm going to smack you guys, right? I don't really blame him for that because he made it clear and he gave a lot of warnings, right? And I think it's come to that point where it's not even Ukraine. Ukraine's, like, I feel like it's America actually in war with Russia, and Ukraine is just...
It's a proxy.
The proxy.
Yeah.
It's a proxy war at this stage. And that's why America is heavily supplying Ukraine. They're trying to weaken Russia without going to a direct war. And it just looks like that Biden, I don't know what's up with him. I feel like he just wants to have fun before he cocks it. But it just looks like an out-and-out America and Russia war.
I think you need to understand the history to sort of understand that. It's not Putin that's told the US or the West not to allow Ukraine to be NATO. It was the previous administration, like Boris Yeltsin and even Gorbachev. When Gorbachev dissolved the USSR back, over 3 decades ago now, I think it was 91 or 90 or something like that. The condition was, I'll resolve the USSR and allow these countries to be independent, provided they don't become a part of NATO and part of the West. Okay, and everyone agreed on that, including the West. And even Ukraine was one of the third largest nuclear. They had the third largest nuclear arsenal, and the West reassured them that if you get rid of all your nuclear weapons, we will make sure that you are secure. Okay. And that's when they got rid of the nuclear arsenal. And clearly, none of that transpired. So all the promises said back then from the West was not held. Not only did they take a lot of the countries that was a former Soviet Union into NATO, like Poland, for example, and many others, okay, and they also didn't protect Ukraine as well. So as soon as the Russia invaded Ukraine, well, where's the protection? Ukraine is invaded. They haven't clearly gone and protected them the way they should have, because that was the guarantee they gave back, over 30 years ago. And number two, when the USSR was dissolving, it said that you should not take those independent countries that are coming out as NATO members. The West didn't uphold that deal as well. So that's why Russia's angry, saying that, we've given you many opportunities, but you keep breaking your promise. And of course, Ukraine's angry as well, saying that, we've got rid of our nuclear weapons and you guys are supposed to protect us. So it's a long history. It's not as simple as what people see. A lot of people are not aware of what happened in history. So clearly on both fronts, the West to blame. On both fronts. So Russia's angry because the West didn't hold their promise. Ukraine's angry because the West didn't hold their promise. But who's suffering? Russia and Ukraine. That's the problem.
And then you've got Zelensky going out to this whole war crime thing, The Hague and all that kind of stuff. These institutions are they're useless. There's nothing globally that can compel a country to do or not to do something. International Court of Justice or whatever it is.
There's only one thing that can compel a country to do something, that's military. So you can do whatever you want. If your military is powerful, no one's going to do anything to you.
Yeah.
All right? And if your military is weak, they can do whatever they want to you. Clearly, the military, and I think a lot of countries now, over the last couple of years, have realised that.
Yeah.
And now they're bumping up their military now. All the countries are. They're spending a lot on their military because they know that there is no such thing as a law in this world anymore. It's about whose military is stronger.
Law of the jungle, survival of the fittest.
Pretty much. That's what it's come down to. And that's how World War I and World War II started. The law of the jungle. And basically, we're going back to that because if you look at the UN and everything else, they have
powerless.
They have powers from the powerful countries. The powerful countries use them as a tool for their own benefit, but when the powerful countries want to do something, no one could do anything against them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the reason why the Russia-Ukraine war is very important for the next president, I guess, is there's been a lot of blame put on the war for the cost of living crisis. I don't know how accurate that is, but I'd love to hear your views on that. Like, is the war to blame for the cost of living crisis, and if so, how? Because I've heard
Around the
this
world?
quite a bit. Huh?
Cost of living crisis around the world?
Yeah,
Oh, no, definitely not. That's inflation. It's got nothing to do with the war in Ukraine
but
and
that's
Russia.
the thing, though. Like, there's been a lot of things saying the war happened. There's
The cost of barley went up,
Yeah,
and
like
then wheat
everything has
prices have
gone
gone
up,
up and all that.
and then, but again, I feel like inflation, in all honesty, is just a tool for greed. People call inflation on everything because they want to put their price up. Like, there is no reason to put prices up for many things
No,
around
you,
the
you
world.
don't seem to understand. For example, the grain, out of Ukraine and whatnot. So, if you look at India, India stored all the grain. All right, stored it. They're not selling it. They want the price to go up. Okay.
That's
So-
what I'm saying. It comes down to
So,
greed.
so it's easy for people who don't know what's going on to just blame the war when it's actually not the war. It's greedy people that are, greedy big enterprise that are actually storing all the commodities and obviously productive type of agriculture production for their own gains. That's one thing. Number two, if you look at oil prices. Russia's forced to sell their oil cheaper because they're not allowed to sell above a certain price, okay? Which means that if it wasn't for that, the oil would be more expensive right now. So clearly the war has actually reduced inflation, the cost of living. So what I'm saying here is if it wasn't for the war in that aspect, it would probably be more expensive. That's because people don't understand. They're saying that the war's caused the cost of living to go up. It's actually reduced it.
When you said they're not allowed by whom? Who can impose that on them?
The West.
OPEC?
Not OPEC. The West has basically said that anyone that buys it off them for above this price is going to be sanctioned. Pretty much along those lines. So basically, the US and the West and all that, they're just saying, you know what, we are putting in pretty much an embargo on Russian oil, but anyone buys it above this certain price, we're going to put an embargo on them and put sanctions on them. Okay, so that's actually reduced a lot of price around the world. So China and India and so forth are buying that oil from Russia at a very cheap price. So essentially, that's actually reduced the price. Okay, and that's why global oil prices had to drop down because this Russian oil flooded the markets at a cheaper price.
Undercutting.
Yeah, and that's why oil prices have dropped a lot over the last year or two because of that reason. So it's actually reduced cost of living in that aspect. So if it wasn't for that, it would actually be more expensive.
So when I look at the debate between Trump and Kamala, Trump is saying he's gonna stop it in 24 hours. Kamala is saying she's gonna keep supplying Ukraine, right? So on that aspect, I'm assuming we want the war to stop, right? Or is it, or if we stop it, you're saying that the cost of living is gonna keep going. Maybe we should just have the war keep going, if everyone's benefiting.
Look, at the end of the day, if you look at it from the humanity aspect of it, you got a lot of people dying for no reason and suffering.
That's
honestly.
too much. It's crazy.
Because of the greed of certain people, okay? And certain people don't know what they're supposed to be doing now. Kamala Harris or Biden, put it, Democrats, they have this thing where, what the main reasons are, I don't want to speculate on that. But at the end of the day, if they're saying that, it's our obligation to protect Ukraine at all costs because of 30 plus years ago when we said that you can get rid of your nuclear arsenal and we're going to make sure that you're protected. Well, they're not really protecting them. They're just slaughtered. All the young people are getting slaughtered and civilians are dying as well. So at the end of the day, either you do it properly, where you get involved directly and say, you know what, we promise you we're going to protect you, we're going to protect you, or just stop the war. Come to a peace agreement. Yes, it's going to come at the expense of some Ukrainian land, but right now,
Life is more important at this stage.
There's
Too much
the male population in Ukraine are getting slaughtered. It's basically it's going to put Ukraine 100 years behind because their populace is getting massacred. So it's not great for the country, and it's going to be the hands of the greedy once the war ends as well with the construction and all the repairs and the rebuilding. Basically, the West is going to own Ukraine. Okay, if this continues,
it's already happened. You got BlackRock that.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Trillions or
That's what I mean.
billions
So
into it.
clearly there's a lot of greed involved here, but the end of the day, ultimately, you got people dying for no reason because the outcome's going to still be the same. So I think Trump is spot on. But look, him resolving it in 24 hours is a bit pie in the sky, all right? But I do think he will resolve it fairly quickly because I think he will come to an agreement no matter what.
And the sad thing is that like you don't even hear it on the news anymore. Like the whole Russia Ukraine, you don't. Where's the news articles?
But
Where's
it's
the
really
deaths
bad.
told?
Like,
Of course,
when you follow
No, it's
it,
bad.
yeah,
it's like they're covering it up.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to show how brutal it is. But it's pretty bad. Like,
No, look, I think clearly, over 1 million people are casualties right now. Over 1 million's gone.
Yeah.
Easy. Dead, and there's probably many more. Obviously there's a lot of displaced people, a lot of people's income, business. There's poverty coming in now, and it's not just Ukraine. I mean, you got to remember a lot of. I know Russia's got a large population, but still, they're losing a lot of young men as well, for no reason whatsoever. So it's a shame, It's a war that's unnecessary. But having said that, all wars are unnecessary. It's usually because of greed.
And then we got the other war that's going on. You got the Palestine and Israel, which is not even a war at this point. It's just a massacre. And obviously Trump and Kamala, they're on the same boat on this. They are supporting Israel, and they want... Trump actually said, like, do it quicker. Like, slaughter Palestine quicker. He literally said that. He's like, just get it over and done with. Like, why is this taking so long? So it seems like both parties over there are siding with Israel. There are no differences
even the way he framed that, he's like, well, you're suffering a PR mess. Get your PR cycle out of the way quickly.
Yeah. So, like, they're both fucking pathetic at that point in that side of things. So if you pick either or, they're going to be supporting that, essentially. And again, no one, like, I don't know what the benefit of that is at this point. More innocent people dying. Any comments on that?
Well, look, at the end of the day, I wouldn't even call that a war. Because a war is between two armies. Palestine clearly for the last 50, 60 years has not been allowed to arm themselves. They're just doing makeshift stuff. It's more of a militia, if that, and not even that. So really, it's a populace that's been basically put in a detention center for many decades. Now, how you say that's a war, I've got no idea.
It's a genocide.
It's not a war. It's a war is when the other side has got an army as well. But clearly, Palestine hasn't been allowed to have an army. So that's not a war. It's basically, if you're saying that Palestine's part of Israel, then you're killing your own people, technically. If you're saying it's not part of Palestine's not part of Israel, then why are you attacking another country? So on both arguments, Israel is at fault. Okay. Who the hell goes and slaughters its own populace if it's part of their country? Or who goes and invades another country or detains another country for so many decades and doesn't allow them to have their own self-control? I mean, on all fronts, it's just wrong. And then if you look at what Israel's doing on the other fronts, with Hezbollah and the Houthis and this and that, even that is not an established or country army. Okay. Hezbollah is, again, it's a militia, okay? It's not a country army, or organised army of a regular army. So there is no real war there. It's more of call it what you will. It's just it's bad. I mean, if you look at what's happened with the pages, the solar's exploding and computers blowing up and this and that, with the Hezbollahs, what does that do? Is that allowed? Are you allowed to do that? I mean, if anyone else did that, if anyone else done that, that would be regarded as a massive global terrorism.
Yeah, and America
On a
will
grand
get
scale.
involved.
War crimes and all that.
It will be all the world will be attacking that country or those people that done that, because it's massive. You can't do it. That's actually not allowed on any law. Forget UN charters and other laws or global laws that you can't just go and.
Because you pretty much detonated 3,000 bombs,
Yeah.
and you don't know where they are.
Well, it's more than 3,000. They've done it on multiple days with not just the pages. They've done it with laptops and solar panels, and they've planted it everywhere. And regardless of civilian casualties, clearly they don't really care who gets injured or killed. So clearly that is, I don't know under what law they think that's justified. Okay, but does that mean that every other country could do that now? To any other country? They can plant it all over the place and when the time is right, just detonate it? I mean, where does this end now? Has that opened up Pandora's box? I mean, since when can someone a country go and they're claiming, Palestine's part of Israel, okay? Well, if it is, then how do you justify going into one state and just slaughtering everyone? Who hasn't got an army to protect them?
Well, then again, so you got both the people supporting that. So that's not gonna, no one wants to resolve that. So people out there that vote for whoever, they're gonna get supported. It's not gonna stop because both parties are gonna support that.
With regards to that, I think that war there in the Middle East, or call it what you will, it's going to clearly go and spill over to the West Bank now. Okay, I think it's a grand scale, it's a grand plan they've got. They're not going to stop it in Gaza. Clearly, they're going to try to expand this. How far it goes, is anyone going to resolve this war? I don't see Republicans or Democrats resolving this. This is going to go for a while.
And the next topic would be tax, right? This, from what I understand, has a lot of implications around the world as well. When the US increase or decrease their tax. Now, Biden loves to increase tax. Reminds me of the Labour government. And Trump wants to decrease tax. On the high earners, I think it's over $400,000. My personal thing is, a lot of people, say, Trump favors the rich. And we look at all around the world. When you start taxing the rich, which are still your biggest taxpayers, right? They start leaving to other countries. A lot of them go to the Middle East tax-free. So you're losing tax money, right? I don't know why, presidents and prime ministers are obsessed with taxing the rich so much, right? When they pay the most tax either way. Even if you reduce it, increase it, they're still paying more tax than normal people out there, right? So again, Trump, Biden obviously increased the tax, made a lot of the rich people angry, and then you got the people that are earning less supporting Biden because he is increasing tax for the rich, right? And that's another reason why a lot of people don't want to vote for Trump, because he's going to look after the rich and not look after the poor.
The Robin Hood effect.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's popular with certain segments of society because, he's the one who's causing harm or he's inflicting pain on the rich to give to the poor. And
But again, I don't see how that has a good benefit to the economy. When you look at economic-wise, socially, you're it's a bit petty, trying to go after the rich. But again, boss man, what would you think on that? Is it worthwhile taxing the rich more and more and more to appease the people that don't pay too much tax on a global economic front? Because again, Americans lose a lot of people to other countries, the ones that earn a lot.
Look, with regards to, I think it's the same thing as Labor and Liberal in Australia. So Democrats and Republicans, same thing. Democrats are similar to Labor, Republicans are similar to Liberal. Pro-business, pro-Labor, okay, same argument. And the thing about Democrats and the Labor Party is they prey on ignorance. And when I say they prey on ignorance, is that they're great at making up a story that is actually incorrect. Okay, and the story being, the the rich get away with not paying much tax. It's always everyone else paying the tax, and the rich don't pay it, and they're enjoying life in the Bahamas and their mansions and their yachts. Okay, that's actually incorrect. Okay, the vast majority of tax in this country, I can't remember the exact numbers. It was a humongous amount, close to 90%, is paid by the large corporations. Okay. And if you look at what the actual populace is paying, it's minute compared to what the bigger corporations are paying. It's massive money they're paying. So clearly it's in the interest of every economy and every country that you have large companies and wealthy individuals. Now, there's a reason why countries in the Middle East and other countries around the world, be it in the Caribbean, be it in many parts of the world, are trying to entice big companies to come and open up, or individuals to come and live there. All right, they entice them, literally, they incentivize them to come. Okay, because they know there's a lot of benefits of those people coming, even if they pay no tax. There's a lot of countries in the world that say, zero tax, just come and live here, because they know by them coming, they're going to employ people. They're going to provide a lot of benefit
they stimulate
to
the economy.
Exactly. So why would you now burn those people that are stimulating the economy even though you are burning the crap out of them, because right now the tax rates for the wealthy, not the wealthy, the people, well, the wealthy, yeah, and corporations are insanely high compared to other countries, parts of the world. Okay, yet you're saying that, you know what, they're paying no tax. It's they're preying on ignorance. It's a great thing to say so you can get votes. Okay, so if you look at the normal workers, you know, they're paying their income tax, and you say, you know what, you are paying your income tax, but you know these rich people are not paying no tax, and these corporations are not paying no tax. It's a whole lot of hocus pocus. Those corporations and those rich individuals are paying so much damn tax, okay, that you can get literally millions of these workers. They're not going to pay one big corporation's money. They are paying like billions in tax, okay, billions, okay. But again, it suits the Labor Party and the Democrats to just paint that picture so everyone believes it, okay. No matter how much times you say that's false, people don't want to hear that. They want to hear where they're villains, they're bad people, even though they're the ones employing people, okay? So what's going to happen is if you just keep burning these companies and burning these people, you're right. They're going to eventually say, you know what, enough's enough. I'm getting ripped off continuously, non-stop, and I'm painted as the villain in these countries, even though I'm offering so many people jobs and opportunities. So what's the point of me staying here now? You think I can't open my company or I can't relocate somewhere else? Of course you can, okay? So what's the point of me staying there? And people say, you know, oh, no, you won't go because America's safe, you know. The West is safe, that's why you got to stay. No, you're safe anywhere. There's a lot of places in the world that's safe, and it's pretty good. It's actually better. So there's nothing wrong with relocate. At the end of the day, a lot of countries who are developing and are actually growing fast have realized this with the West, particularly America, and say, you know what, it's an opportunity to grab those wealthy individuals and those wealthy countries to come and relocate to my country now. And it's great because there's a lot of competition now for the wealthy and the conglomerate companies. So it's great that there's competition out there. So the US has got to be careful, and the Democrats keep pushing with this, you know, this Robin Hood, or not the Robin Hood story, but yeah, Robin Hood story pretty much, where we're going to rip off the wealthy and look after everyone else. All right, they're going to start getting to more poverty. So you saw that in Detroit in the US. I mean, I remember when I was growing up back in the 80s and whatnot, Detroit was a thriving city. Very thriving. It was an automotive capital of
industry.
Pretty much, it was industry of the US. Look at it now. It's a ghost town. There's literally hobos everywhere now. Properties are dropped. Everyone, see what happens when you burn industry? This is what happens. They relocate. They go to other countries. Is this what you want? You want every other company to go? What's going to happen to the US then? It's going to be ghost town. So you've got to be careful not to push it too far. You know, you might say, you know, well, no, they have to stay here because the money's here. They'll still make money there, but they'll go somewhere else. And they won't employ your people in the US. So the people in the US, if they want secure job and they want good pay, look after the people that actually provide that. And Australia's the same. Australia's the same. Look at what happened to Australia. Back in the 80s and 90s, industry left Australia. There's not even car manufacturer here now. They're all gone. Okay? Again, it's by burning them. By this Labor Party story of, you know what, we need to tax them because they're getting away with nothing and we've got to look after everyone else. Okay? Well, you can't look after everyone else when they've got no secure job and there's no high pay because all the industries are leaving. So you've got to be careful how you push this.
What would you say was it?
But even like to add to that, you look at taxpayers and what their issues with paying tax. Even in Australia, for example, if people got taxed and tax revenue was used in the right manner, was managed well, people are like, okay, you know what, it actually makes sense for me to pay tax. But it's the colossal mismanagement of tax revenues in all these countries that's left people with, you know what, stuff the tax system. Not going to bother with it. Because what's the point if after my entire life I've paid tax and there's some benefit that I want to get at the end of this, you know, light in the tunnel, there's nothing that comes back to me. And you look in the States, for example, okay, people who are in Silicon Valley, big corporates, blah, blah, they're the enemy apparently, they're all paying huge amounts of tax. But what benefit do they get out of their tax dollar? Nothing. You look at healthcare in that country, you look at education in that country, you look at, you know, welfare, security, this and that. It's abysmal, even in Australia. Okay, it used to be much better. Those who were born over here, brought up over here, who lived here for a long time, say, look, you know what, the country was better years back. It's getting worse, even though there is higher tax rates, more tax revenue coming in. But again, colossal mismanagement, incompetent people just making bad decisions.
I think the biggest argument for increasing tax no matter which country you are, and a lot of people don't factor this in, is the less tax people pay, the more they have to spend in your business. There are a lot of business owners out there, right? Why would you vote for someone like a Biden or Kamala because they're going to increase tax? Because people are petty like that, right? People vote for like one thing, they're like, yeah, screw the rich, right? But if you own a business, you want tax to decrease so people have more money in their pocket to spend in your business, right? There's a lot of things that people don't factor. It's just pettiness. They don't think outside the box. The less tax, they have more money to spend. If they're a business owner, the less tax means they could employ more people because they got more money. And these massive corporations, like you said, they spend billions on tax, right? People complain about how Apple didn't pay much. They still paid billions. Billions, right? They still
Many
paid billions, right? If they didn't pay those billions, I could guarantee you they could have hired more people, right? You could have had a job. There could have been more pay rises, right? Those are things that people don't consider, right? And tax is never a good thing, right? It's your money going to waste pretty much, right? Governments and countries make a lot of money outside of tax. But you look at the Middle East, man, these guys, they don't charge tax, but they're loaded. They got all sorts of resources and whatnot. And a lot of countries are resource rich, but they hide it and just rely on the tax. But people need to be careful. In America, when you're voting, tax is not a good thing, right? The more tax...
I think if you read any economics book, and we've read many of them, okay, and if you look at any economics thesis as well, I think it's quite... I haven't seen one argument that government is more efficient than private enterprise. So as far as spending money is concerned, undisputed, 100% undisputed that private enterprise is much more efficient and can use the money better than governments can use it. Governments are insanely incompetent and inefficient.
Yeah.
That's proven in every single economic book you can read. So clearly that's factual.
Now, the next topic would be immigration. Now, this is a very popular, controversial one. Now, I read something where the Pope actually said, do not vote for Trump. So the Pope actually went out there and said...
The Pope actually got involved in politics.
He got
I don't think
involved
that's ever happened in the
and
history of the
said,
world.
do not vote for Trump. You know why? Because he wants to stop immigration, right? Control it more. And I find that so funny because at the Vatican, you can't even go to the Vatican properly.
True.
So his borders are closed more than what Trump will close. So I don't think that guy has any position to be like, hey, don't vote for this guy because of immigration. Because, mate, you got all
Different league.
You're a different league. But when it comes to immigration, Trump, again, I'm going to put a disclaimer here. And, Trump said a lot of things back in the heydays, stop the Muslims, he wants to reduce Muslims. Obviously, we're Muslims, right? And that's complete bullshit what he's saying. But when we take away the side of, hey, we're Muslims and whatnot, he's always had the mindset of America first, right? They painted this picture of Muslims being terrorists and not a good influence, so let's block that. That's all rubbish. We know that, right? But as an American, as a patriot, and you want to run your country, he wants to put a lot of hold on immigration. Not completely. He doesn't want to stop it, but I guess force it more for Muslims, for Mexicans, and God knows what else, right? And I don't know what your views are on this, but again, he gets a lot of hate for that. And rightfully so, maybe, perhaps. But in my view, I don't see the benefit of stopping immigration. That's just me, right? I'd love to hear your views on that. Again, he's going to lose votes on that, like a lot of votes, because he just looks, racist and God knows what else, what he looks like. Love your input on that, boss man.
Well, there's many aspects to that question, but one being it's political, that the Democrats want immigrants, because the immigrants traditionally, if you look at statistics, have voted for the Democrats. All right, so the more immigrants, the more votes the Democrats get. Okay, that's statistically correct, factual. Okay, so the Democrats clearly want immigrants because they're Democratic voters, because they're the ones that brought them in. Okay. The second part to that is you said that you don't see any benefit in stopping the immigrants. Now, if you look at military-wise, the US, if they want to maintain that position of number one military in the world, it's in their clear interest that they have a lot of population to choose from for their military. Okay, the more populace you have, the stronger your military is. And that's why they're scared of China, because China's got a huge population. And with the technology and the wealth that they've been generating recently in the last few decades, China, they've become a clear threat to the US. So if it was like Taiwan, all right, for example, or South Korea or something like that, where they have got technological advancements, but the population is small, US doesn't feel threatened, okay? But when you've got a very large populace, more than the US, and the technology, that's a dangerous military. Because you need a few things for a military to be dangerous. One is you need people, and second, you need technology. China's got both, hence why the US feels threatened. So the US, to counter that, clearly need quite a large increase in the populace as well. Number one. Number two, for the economy as well. It's good to have an increase in populace. Okay, obviously more people, the more consumption and economic activities generally. So in that respect, you're right, Ali. But Trump's argument of stopping immigrants or slowing down immigrants clearly has merit as well, because he wants to have a filtering system for immigrants. He wants, if people are going to come to this country, we want people that's going to actually contribute positively to the economy.
Quality over quantity.
Yeah, so he's after more educated and skill set rather than just bringing anyone and everyone just jumping through the border. And because he's saying that a lot of criminals come through and there's a lot of criminal activities coming through, and obviously a lot of these are affecting the social aspects of the US, which is detrimental to the social for the crime. Rapes and murders and so forth, and all sorts of drugs and so forth. So he's got merit as well. So if you look at it from both aspects, they've got merits. Now, which one's more important? Considering that the US's populace is already fairly large, about 400 million or whatever it is, I would say Trump's got a better argument. Because right now, if you look at the social aspect of the US, it's got issues, very large issues, and the more immigrants and particularly the more criminals that come in, gang-related and drug-related and crime-related, because clearly not everyone's going to be clean skin that comes through the border, right? There's going to be a lot of criminals that come in there to conduct criminal activities to get rich fast. Okay, so I would actually have more concern about that than actually the other aspects. So if it was me, an American in the US, I would actually vote for Trump on that aspect, because I think the social component of the US is deteriorating fairly rapidly.
Would you agree, Muzza?
Probably, yeah. I think so. I think I think people forget the fact that obviously as non-Americans sitting out here, we look at, okay, well, what role does America play globally and whatnot? But if it was your country and you were living in it, then you'd be concerned about security, safety, well-being, opportunity, work-wise, and everything else like that. And an overpopulated country doesn't really serve you well at all. So I think that's where Trump gets a lot of credibility. It's like, okay, well, finally somebody's out there looking out for our interests, and not just caring about, okay, globally we need to be the bully we need to be, and we need to be a peacemaker we need to be. It's like, forget all that. Let's start to bring things back in house. And even when you spoke about the whole Chinese thing as well, like. A lot of people can understand where Trump's coming from in terms of his anti-China rhetoric. Which is like, you know what? They've taken our technology, they've taken our industry, they've taken all this other stuff, cheap labor, whatever it is. I want to bring it all back in-house again. You can see where the guy's coming from.
Well, what is the bigger image of China versus the US? Like, where is that coming from? Is it just like a pissing contest? Or what is it? Like, where's the root cause of this?
The root cause is, while China was... the industrial hub for the US had no problem. It's when China got beyond that, okay, when they started changing and said, all right, we're actually going to incorporate all the technology now into our own economy and our own industry, all right, and start developing everything ourselves, all right?
And competing.
So the US obviously now has got competition. So initially it was just like, to put it brutally honest, it was like a slave area for the US, for their industries. Very cheap labor, this is 3 decades ago, whatever it is. Very cheap labor. Let's just take our industry there and let's just work the populace because they've got too many people, all right? We can get them very cheap production, okay? It's when China changed mindset and said, you know what, we want to be this now. And we have a very large populace. Now, if the populace of China was the old China 30 years ago, America would not be concerned. But when you got like the technology that the US has, or Some of their technology is even better than the US in some industries. Okay, that becomes a real threat, especially with the populace they got. Now, as I said before, for military to be like proper, dangerous, like really dangerous, you need people and you need technology. Once you got those two things, well, money as well, and China's got that as well. Once you got this, they are now a genuine threat to the US, well, number one position as a global power. Because China, if left alone, if the US don't do anything about it, will probably be the most powerful country in the world within a decade, if left alone. I have no doubt they will. I've been to China, and the infrastructure, technology kills everywhere, anywhere in the world. On the mass production that they've done, on the size of the projects and the infrastructure build out they've done, there's no other country in the world like it, including the US. It's insane, okay? And as I said, if untouched, I have no doubt within a decade, China will be number one in the world. US will be pushed to number two. Not just economy-wise, military-wise I'm talking about here, all right? Economy-wise, everyone is a given. If untouched, they would pass America in the next 10 years. They were actually going to pass them until America started putting tariffs, okay? So, yeah, 100%. Military-wise, they'll be number one in the world, and America will start going down the ladder. And clearly, America don't want that, and Donald Trump doesn't want that. So that's why there's decoupling, and there's literally a passive war going on right now.
But on the topic of Chinese tariffs and everything else, I think even Harris/Biden, they've also said they're going to impose some degree of tariffs. Maybe not as aggressive as Trump, but there's still that thing to say, okay, well, if you are going to import Chinese, then you're going to have to pay for this, because they don't want it to be a clear sort of, okay, well, in America it's going to cost you this much more than sending it to China. So,
see, previously America, let's say a decade ago or 5 years ago, previously America wanted imports from China, right? Because you used to keep inflation down, all right? Because low cost of goods, okay? Now they're putting tariffs on Chinese EVs, for example, because they can't compete against Chinese EVs. The technology in Chinese EVs is insane for the price that you pay, okay? You can't compete. The US cannot compete against the Chinese goods. Like literally, they can't compete. Everyone will buy Chinese. The quality of Chinese have gone through the roof, all right? Previously, 20 years ago, Chinese was just known as, rubbish products. Now it's the best.
No, their products are good now.
It's insanely good.
It's really good.
All right? And cheap. How are you going to compete? Like literally, if you allow a Chinese products to come in untariffed, they're going to take over. They're going to take over the world very quick. So it's a real threat. It's not like other countries. People say, this is not real. Surely China's not a threat. Yes, it is. Untouched, literally, 5 years' time.
Trump has been saying that even when he was the first election.
The first time.
Like he's been saying, like China is a big threat. They're going to take over.
They're a huge threat.
And I don't think people understand. Like as an American, like I don't know why the alarm bell. Because Americans, you know how they think they're the greatest thing in the history of histories, right? They've been in power for like 100 years or something.
No, not 100
Less.
years.
Less?
No, less than that.
Less than that. And they think they've been in power since freaking Jesus, right? And everyone has a downfall. There's been bigger and more powerful, countries and empires with downfalls, right? America's downfall is going to come eventually, right? And Trump has always been saying the biggest threat is China, right? And you look at since Biden has come, how much more powerful China has gotten, especially in that region as well, right? A lot of countries are tying themselves to China, and it's really splitting, right? And America, I feel like people are only listen to America only because of the military, right? They've got nothing else going for them, right? They're horrible in all sorts of ways.
Even that, they're not as strong as they used to be compared to the other world. A lot of countries are caught up to America, military-wise.
This is not. It's not politically. It's not a political question, but this is a bit of a side question. Is the U.S. Army actually that strong? Because you look at their history of wars, they got their ass kicked in every single war, right?
Well, they never fight alone.
Almost every single war.
It's a power of allied forces.
Literally, like even in World War II, they're talking about how great these guys have threw their whole country to defeat Germany. But anyways, I don't think their military is.
The problem with the U.S. military recently, in the last decade or two, has been this whole inclusive thing. Okay, there are some things in the world that you can do inclusively. Like, there's no issues with that. Okay, but when you start doing it on the front line, when you start doing it on things that are literally at the detriment of your whole country, then you're playing with fire. And I think with America, and not just America, the Western countries as well, but America especially, they do it more than anyone. This inclusiveness into like the military, in special forces, they've even started that, like in Secret Service, police force. It's coming back to bite them, but they're not stopping now. Especially with the Democrats, they're going to continue with this. Okay.
I mean, you look at the transsexual general in the U.S. Army. It's literally like taking a piss for it at this point.
See, the problem is people think that's like Democrats think that's cool. Okay. Oh man, we got this. You know, we got this many women in the military, and we have this.
We're so progressive.
The problem is they don't understand how it affects men. Okay. And me being a former police officer, I can tell you firsthand. When I'm on the beat and on night shift on Friday or Saturday night on like a brawler van, we call it back then, I don't want women police officers next to me because we're in fights all the time, and it's really tough out there, all right? And every time I had a woman, and this is factual, okay, this is my experience, the woman used to not get involved in the fights. I was by myself, and the woman used to run away. How many times after I finished and handcuffed the person or the criminals, I'll see my partner like 100 meters away, run away, all right? It's not good for the men's confidence. And then all you want to do as a man is, you know what, why am I here for? Why am I here? I don't want to be here anymore. So you'll find that what they don't understand, the Democrats and other people, is this inclusivity thing. The real men will start to doubt why we're here. Why are we here when no one's got my back? It's dangerous, man. You don't seem to understand how dangerous the military and the paramilitary and you know those secret service, and this is a dangerous job.
It's a war zone.
I can't. This is not time for politics. We don't want politics when my life's at stake. Okay. So what you're going to find with the American military is you'll find that the real fighters are going to start to not. They'll start resigning, and then you're going to have second tier, third tier come in. That's where the U.S. military is getting weaker. The biggest weakness in U.S. military is not the technology. It's not the money spent on the military. It's the manpower. People are what makes the military. People are what makes the police force. And that's why you see in the US, the police force deteriorate. It's because the real police, why would I want to be a cop when the law's not with me, when my partner's not got my back, okay? And there's all politics in my station, where I'm, you know, where my police station is. I don't want to be there. I'm just going to resign and go some other job. Why am I going to put my life at danger when there's all this politics playing with my life? Why would I do that? That's what people don't understand. Unless you're in that position, you won't understand. I was in that position. It's horrendous. It's not a great feeling. I know people say, no, we want more. No. When I'm in the thick of things and it's dangerous, like your life's at danger, I want someone that's got my back. I feel confident. I don't want someone running away where I know I'm by myself. So every time I used to go out on night shift, in a dangerous shift, like a Friday, Saturday night, I had a female partner, I knew I was on my own. So if I'm going to get into something really dangerous, I knew I had no one having my back. I knew it. So I was more extra dangerous. I knew that. So people don't understand that. I know it's controversial, but it's factual. I'm telling you from my own experience. And I know the military is the same. The US military now, I have no doubt, 100%, there's a lot of top tier special forces guys that probably just left the military and said, you know what, I'm done with the politics. I'm in this with my whole life involved, and people are just playing politics here.
Because I was going to bring that up, where one of the biggest ways Kamala and Biden gets their vote is off that community of the LGBT.
They don't seem to understand how weak is the US.
Thing.
You know, people, countries like China and Russia and all that, they're going to be laughing. They're going to say, you're going to put this military in front of me? Really? The Russian military. How many females they got in the special forces? 0. You think they're going to muck around? This is your whole country at stake, man. You put your best there. Regardless, if a female is the best, you put them there. That's fine. But you don't reduce the standards just for the sake of inclusivity. Because your whole country's at stake here. You've got people's lives at stake. You've got civilians, people that are relying on the military to protect them. You've got the police that people are relying on to protect them. How does a community and the country have confidence in a military and police where you know 100% that you haven't got the best people there? There are a lot of people put in there for political reasons. How do you have confidence they're going to have your back? They're going to protect you.
Like we had somebody on the podcast in the UK, and he served in the British Army. He said the same thing. He's like, I left that and went into private security.
Yeah.
It's like private security, the sort of those
There's
little
no politics.
mercenary kind of thing. He's like, everyone, it's a group of guys, pack of wolves get together. You know everybody. You got each other's backs,
Everyone's back.
and that's it. And you
When
get
your
paid
life's in
handsomely.
danger, you can't play politics,
Yeah.
man. This is my life, man, not yours. The politicians aren't going to die. Kamala Harris ain't going to die. It's me that's going to die. Why am I going to put my life at stake so they can play politics?
But, again, that's a big way of them getting voted. And you look at the new generation, which comes to the second topic, or another topic is the decision making, right? A lot of the new young voters and the younger people make votes on these sort of things. It's like, because Biden allows gays, I'm okay with the world going into shit and me, starving. I can't afford anything. As long as I could be gay and be trans and you accept me for that, I'm okay with the world, burning, right? So people are making decisions on literally the most silliest things. Emotional things that have like no benefit for the world, like at all. Like there is no benefit of all these things for the world, right? And they play with people's emotions to get the votes, right? Trump has made it clear he's against all these things. Biden loves it. Again, like I said, he's put a transsexual general in the military as a statement, and all God knows what else they're doing at that. And America's a very proud country, patriotic country, and the military, as you said, is going to be eaten up with all this inclusivity, right? And it's a joke at this point. And the funny thing is, Russia did a campaign to get more troops into their military for the war, and the video was making fun of America, because it's like, what would you rather be? Like a man in the battlefield, right? Or there's a makeup guy taking selfies and shit. It's literally a shot at America. Like, what would you rather be, right? And the military, like the Navy SEALs guys and all these military guys were actually watching the video and commentating. They're saying, yeah, this is 100% shot at America, because they even know what the military state in America is. It's literally just, let's have fun, right? For votes, for inclusivity. It's because politicians, again, a lot of people don't understand that. I feel like the biggest difference between Trump and all the other guys are, Trump is a businessman, right? He's a businessman at heart, not a politician. The other guys are politicians, and a politician doesn't know how to run shit, right? They're just there to get votes. They learn how to get votes. They play with people's emotions. There are videos of Trump back 10, 20, 30 years ago of him saying, stuff the gays, stuff this, stuff that. There are actual videos of him out there. But again, because he needed to get the votes to become president, yeah, it's all good, man. Yeah, you could do whatever you want, right? And a lot of people don't sniff these out. Like, people just get played in the emotions and the politics. And I don't know, man, it's just ugly. It's just, people make, even in Australia, it's all around the world, man. Like in Australia, the only reason why we got this dumbass president and prime minister, inclusivity rubbish. NDIS, you could be gay, you could do this, you could do that. Like, none of that has benefited in Australia. Like, economic wise, like, it's nothing. And now look at Australia. People are starving, man.
Again, it comes down to, let's just tax the greedy on the rich and the corporations and give it to the NDIS and the people who are disadvantaged. It's about playing with people's emotions. Because, again, Australia, there are more working class people in the world, clearly, than, people that are wealthier and corporations. So it's easy to get those votes if you just play that card. And that's what they do, the Labor Party and the Democrats. They play that card because they know there's a lot of votes there, and people are going to believe all the crap they're saying, because it's actually not true, but they're saying it. So if you want to win elections, and you're right with politicians, Donald Trump is not a born politician, he's an entrepreneur, okay? And hence why, you saw the assassinations. He's not part of the establishment, and he's against the establishment. So clearly there's things behind the scene, and there's certain people that don't want him there, because, again, normally politicians are politicians. They're not entrepreneurs. So it's clearly he's not from the establishment, hence why he's not wanted.
There's a political commentator in the US who said something last week I think was interesting. He's like, so far, we know what Trump's policy stance is on a lot of these issues, right? Employment through the military, through everything else. But Harris has not actually even sat down with the media or the public or anybody and actually outlined what her policies are. All her entire pitch is, don't vote for that guy. That's it. I'm just a bit alternative to him. So stuff him wherever he says. But no one's actually cared to ask her, well, if you are running the show, what will the life of the everyday American actually even look like? Because at least with him, we know what we're getting, what we're not getting. With you, we've got no idea. So,
But see, they're playing the fear game of, what if Donald Trump came?
yeah.
And literally, it's going to be Armageddon for the minorities and be it the Hispanics, be it the the black people and so forth and so forth. Just endless. It's Armageddon for everyone other than the white supremacists. So they're playing that card, all right, and it's just fear mongering, and they're hoping that gets them across the line. So that's what they're playing on.
And there are polls out there where Kamala is actually winning.
Oh, yeah.
And
I think majority of polls are showing
yeah,
that.
like I'm personally worried about that, right? Like again, like I don't really care about politics, and again, I have a saying, right? And the saying is, whatever America does, do the opposite, right? Because America's just a piece of shit place, right? Everyone's just what they've done in history is just terrible, and what they keep doing is just terrible, and it's the unfortunate thing is that they have so much power in the world where it's like you have to get involved one way or another and actually prefer one or another because it affects everyone around the world, their decisions and whatnot. It's like, who's the less of two evils at this point? And Trump is a type of guy that says how it is. This is what you get. I'm going to say it. The other guys are snakes, honestly. From what I've seen of Biden, the guy just pulls shit out of their ass, out of nowhere. And I don't know, man. I honestly, if I was an American citizen, I'll be worried.
So
I'll be worried.
I think you got to look at it from this perspective. I don't think there's any doubt, right? And it's undisputed. I think people should start, seeing reality. There's no doubt America's on the decline. They have been for a long time. They are they're gonna be not the leader anymore very soon. Okay, so there's two ways of doing this. It's doing it with with honor, and actually. Like, for example, with China, what America's doing, that you can either say, you know what, we're going to be friends with everyone regardless, and we're going to all just share the spoils of war, okay? And I'm not talking about real war. I'm talking about, like, you know what, let's just get along in peace and, China's got great technology and they're doing great things. We do certain things, and let's just enjoy life. Or you can do what they're doing, which is, I'm going to put tariffs, I'm going to try to stay up top no matter what, all right? And I'm going to kick and scream while I'm falling. And that's what the US is doing right now. So the honourable thing would to do, you know what? It's impossible for America to stay up top for another 2 decades, beyond that. Okay, reason because the cost of stuff in the US is way too high above when you look at other countries in the world. Even their military right now, the amount of money they're spending on military just to maintain it, not to grow it. Forget to build more advanced stuff and just to maintain that military.
More than a lot of countries' budgets.
That's right. That's right. So it's impossible for America to stay up top for too much longer. So either they can kick and scream and cause wars everywhere, what they're doing right now, okay? And it could get to World War III if they keep kicking and screaming, all right? Or just go down with honor and just be content with being third, fourth, fifth and start going down the ladder, all right? And just be honourable in your fall. But they're going to fall. And I think it's about time people just realise that. You cannot stay up top anymore. It's impossible with the model they've got because the infrastructure they've got is getting older now. There are countries now building newer infrastructure, better technology, and the people are hungrier around the world. The US, they've lost it. They've lost their way with this inclusivity. Clearly they've got too much time on their hand, all right? So clearly they're on the decline, clear as day. So let's not go beyond that. They're going to go regardless. So go with honor, right? That's what I say. Now, if you don't like America, you should want Kamala Harris to win, okay? Because that will be a steeper decline. Because basically that's just almost a nail in the coffin. If you like America, you should want Trump to stay because he will make the death longer, okay? He'll make them survive longer than they should. Okay, that's the only difference. And us as a neutral from Australia, okay, and we are, we're asset managers and we look closely at economies and politics and everything else, and I'm following it for many decades now. As a neutralist, for me, that's how it stands. I don't really care about politics. I never did. I'm not a political guy. I hate politics. But at the end of the day, I need to know about politics. I need to know about economies. And I'm telling you now, if you don't like America, you should want Harris to come. So, if the Muslims don't like America or anyone else that doesn't like America, Chinese or whatever the case is, you should want Harris to come because that's going to be a much steeper decline
We
for
saw
the
with
US.
Biden, the influence America has around the world, it's non-existent.
No,
Many
people don't care anymore.
countries are not even using the US anymore to buy their stuff.
So it reminds me of the days when the Ottoman Empire was in the decline, and then they started calling the Ottoman Empire the sick man of Asia. Okay, that's what they started calling the Ottoman Empire in the last decades before their end. All right, clearly the Ottoman Empire was an empire that lasted over 600 years. All right, but the last 40, 50, 60 years, they were called the sick man of Asia. So they were just like a symbol as the leader in the world or in that region. Okay, and because they knew eventually it's going to be gone. Okay, so the US is the same right now. It's the same where the Ottomans were in their decline. It's just symbolic now, and people really don't even care anymore. If you look at China and if you look at BRICS, they really don't care. The US is threatened, we're going to do this, we're going to sanction you, have to do this. No one cares. Do what you're going to do. You're finished, mate. 20 years ago, yeah, everyone would have been scared of America because they would have got their allies and started throwing missiles on you. All right? It's gone. Look what's happening with Iran. They can't even throw a missile there. Like 30 years ago, they were throwing a missile on Iran. It's gone. They haven't got it anymore. Okay? Other countries have caught up. It's gone. That power's gone. So you know what? You're symbolic there now. At the end of the day, if the Democrats come in, the US decline will go much faster decline, and the economy won't go great as well. The stock market won't perform as well. That's historically correct. The stock market have never performed great in Democratic terms. They've always performed better in Republican terms. This is actual statistical factual. Okay, so me as a wealth manager, an asset manager, clearly I have to plan accordingly. Now, if Harris won, I'll plan according to that, and I'll invest in asset classes according to that. And if the Republicans won, I'll aggress more aggressively in growth assets. So I just look at the potential of what I should be investing in and where I should go. But ultimately, for America, Donald Trump clearly is a better candidate because he'll protect the interest of the US longer, and he's a bit more realistic in the way he understands America. Because for him, by saying "make America great again," he recognised that America's not great anymore. At least he recognises that, not like the others. Okay. The others have to understand that the US is not the US 50 years ago, or 30 years ago, or 20 years ago. The US today has nowhere near the power and the influence that it used to have, and no one fears them anymore. Even small countries don't fear them anymore. Okay, so maybe they should start getting back to reality.
Now, before we wrap up, usually when you support Trump, I don't even consider us, like, by you saying you prefer Trump, I don't
I
necessarily
didn't say I
think,
prefer Trump.
or you made it look like Trump is a better candidate.
I'm saying for the US
Right,
people.
for the US people.
If you don't like America, you should ask.
Yeah.
You should want
so
Harris to come.
by saying that, right? If you say that in America or anywhere in the world, you're seen as a piece of shit at that point, right? Because as soon as you prefer Trump, they'll pull out he's a feminist, he's a sexist, he touched this, he done that. Okay, but does that mean because he done that, let's just blow up our country? Let's just die, right? That's what a lot of Americans choose, right? Because a lot of the fights or the talks that I see online is Trump did this, he done great for the economy, done this, he done that, he done great. Yeah, but you're forgetting he's a feminist, he's this, he touched that person, he touched this person, he doesn't allow abortions. What's wrong with you, right? So again, a lot of the new coming of age voters and the new young voters they don't understand the economy. They don't understand all that. It's just, hey man, he touched Samantha and looked at her wrong. He's a feminist. Screw him, right? So they're okay with having a shit country as long as they don't bring this man on. So it's weird.
But see,
the landscape's extremely
just to counter
weird.
that, you've got to remember the younger generation don't know how it was 20 years ago because they're young. They don't know how it was 20 years ago. Ask people that's in their 40s, 50s and 60s how it was 20, 30 years ago. Was it better? 100%. Any country. Australia's the same. Okay? So essentially, you con the people, as I said before, the ignorant. They don't know any better. Okay? So what happens with the ignorant is, let's say you're a 25-year-old or 20-year-old, and you got this new age generation thinking, saying, you know what, yes, I'm going to vote for the Democrats or Labor Party, okay? 20 years' time, you're going to wake up and say, oh shit, 20 years ago, it was much better. It's shit now, okay? But you've got the new 20-year-olds coming through that think they're smart now, all right? They're not going to listen to you because you're an old guy now. You're just a 40-year-old. You don't know what you're talking about, all right? So now you've got the new 20-year-olds coming through. Yeah, on a new power. Yeah, we've got new generation guys. So they've always got young blood and young people to con, okay? It's an endless supply of young, ignorant people. Even though they don't see themselves ignorant, they think they're the smart, young generation. They're much smarter than everyone else in the world. The problem is the 30, 40, 50, 60-year-old has already seen that. They've seen the con. They got con before. And they're saying, oh, no, all I see is deterioration, all right? Ask anyone that's over 40 right now, was Australia better 20 years ago? 100% they'll say, yeah, Australia was better 20 years ago. It's deteriorating. Every single year is deteriorating. Every 5, 10 years, it's worse than it was 5, 10 years ago. All right? No doubting it. And the US is the same. But you've got the new generation. Con with something else. Con with something new. All right? Oh, yes, we're the young people. We know better. All right? Unfortunately, that's the way it is. All right? So they've always got new age blood dumbasses to con. Okay?
There is a view that I think the Trump vote is a better vote for the Muslims. Because during the last Trump era,
there was no wars.
There was no wars in Muslim countries. Muslim countries were all safe. And Trump has great ties with a lot of the Middle East, loves his MBS mate in Saudi and all that kind of stuff as well. So a lot of people are like, okay, well, with Harris, she's pro a lot of things that are non-Islamic. Whereas with Trump, he's your man's man. Okay, a lot of things he does stand for and a lot of things do align with the Islamic view as well. So
the thing about it is Trump's a typical entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs like to control everything. No, you're a naughty boy, don't do that, all right? Like North Korean Kim Jong-un or whatever his name is, if he puts his little foot out somewhere, hey, don't put your foot out there. That's how our entrepreneurs are, all right? We like everything to just be the way we want things to be, all right? With the Democrats, clearly their foreign policy is massive weakness for them. No one really listens to them, no one respects them, no one cares about them. So the world, it's like all the bad boys and all the bad students are out there fighting now, all right? When Trump comes, the typical entrepreneur wants everything. Yeah, everyone hold.
Back in your corner.
You do that. Everyone. If someone talks, don't talk. Right? That's what entrepreneurs are. Right? So clearly, Trump's major strength is entrepreneurship, where he likes to control pretty much everything.
But even as a personality, he's a strong character.
Yeah.
He goes
That's
in, his
style.
handshake, the whole demeanor is that of, okay, I'm going to assert my authority. Whereas Biden, the poor guy, can't wake up in the morning. So that becomes a problem. You can't
And
assert
Biden
anything.
doesn't even know what to say to foreign people. I mean, when Putin's threatening war, he goes, they don't even know what's going on.
Yeah, with Kamala there, I feel like, again, she's going to get a lot of votes because the young people are going to want the first female president.
Yeah.
Like, there is no
That's what I
logic
mean.
behind the votes. But anyways, we'll leave it over here. Right, we'll leave it. It's going to be very interesting, like extremely interesting how this goes. And all I know is that if Trump doesn't win, there's going to be a lot more headaches, a lot more deaths, a lot more everything. Honestly, it's...
Well, one more thing we didn't touch on is the social disorder that could happen if Trump lost. I mean, what's the consequences if Trump lost? What would the
Civil
South,
unrest.
What would the South do? The white man's stronghold, where the right wing. What are they going to do? Are they going to civil unrest? Is there going to be riots? Is there going to be like civil war? Right now, we haven't even touched on that.
Yeah, there could be.
Yeah, because again, like if you're a patriot, you're genuinely seeing your country fall apart.
Yeah, it's falling apart.
It's falling apart.
Yeah, you're watching it.
America
You're
is
watching the whole
falling
country get hijacked.
Yeah,
You know?
by these people that want to do inclusion.
Yeah.
And that's their strongest point. That's what they're selling themselves on. We are inclusion, and you could kill the child inside you. No worries.
And that's what I mean by the true warriors, I call them, like the ones that should be real police officers, the real military people. They are those people. That they're the strong alpha male type that can't just keep watching my whole country fall apart because of these people who are inferior. That's the way they're going to look at it. These beta males, they're going to say, is hijack my country. I've had enough of this. They can potentially do that. So there could potentially be civil unrest that could lead to civil war. You just don't know.
But anyways, it's going to be interesting. We're in Australia. So again, like I said, it does affect the globe, and people need to realize that and don't sleep on it. And it is less of two evils at the end of the day. But yeah, if you want the world to fix up, I think Trump is the safe bet. If you want more deaths and more inclusions and more God knows what. I think Kamala is the safe bet there. But good luck, America. You guys are in for a tough ride. And sayonara. But I feel like Kamala is going to win. Just again, for symbolic. Make her the first female president for the sake of it. And yeah. Any last words from you guys?
Oh, good. It's going to be one hell of a story. But either way, I prepare accordingly with my portfolios. I just prepare for either way.
I feel like everyone should prepare.
Yep.
To be honest, especially Americans, everyone should like
Just take care of
prepare.
yourself.
It's gonna be hectic, but because I don't think Trump will try again after this.
No, he won't try.
Yeah,
again.
I don't think he'll
No,
try
he won't
again.
try again.
So I feel like they should make the most of Trump before he's gone. But anyways, on that note, I hope you guys learned something. Again, these are all our opinions, right? We just laid everything out there. Everyone's feel free to do your own research, your own this, your own that. It's a free country. Do what you need to do. But I hope you guys did learn something. And if you guys did enjoy it, give us a like, subscribe. Maybe this might get a lot of dislikes, a lot of hate. I don't know. But we'll see. On that note, we'll see you guys in the next one.